The morning started like any other Tuesday on Earth. People rushed to work, students complained about homework, and somewhere in Tokyo a man was still deciding what to eat for breakfast. Then every screen on the planet went white. Television sets, computer monitors, smartphones, even the massive digital billboards in Times Square. All of them displayed the same thing. A face that was not human stared out from every device. It had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, skin that shimmered like oil on water, and a mouth that moved in ways that made people uncomfortable. The creature spoke, and somehow everyone understood the words in their own language. Humans of Earth, I am Lord Commander Zephix of the Crithion Dominion. Your world has been catalogued. Your solar system now falls within the boundaries of our territory. You will comply with our requirements. Sarah Okonkwo was in the bathroom of her apartment when her phone started talking. She grabbed it, toothbrush still in her mouth, and stared at the alien face on the screen. Her military training kicked in immediately. This was not a joke. This was not a movie promotion. The image quality was too perfect, too real. The alien continued speaking. You will provide 40% of your planet's annual resources. This includes minerals, biological materials, and energy production. You will also provide complete technical specifications of all your technology. Finally, you will send 100,000 humans each year to serve in our labor colonies. You have 30 days to begin compliance. The transmission ended as suddenly as it began. Screens returned to normal. For 3 seconds, the entire planet was silent. Then the screaming started. Sarah wiped her mouth and called her commanding officer. As captain of the experimental vessel Defiant Echo, she was one of the few people Earth had who might actually matter in the next few hours. The phone rang twice before Colonel Hayes answered. Okonkwo, get to the base now. We're going to emergency status. She was already putting on her uniform. Was that real, sir? Every government on Earth is asking the same question. Get here and we'll find out together. Across the world, leaders scrambled. The United Earth Council, formed 20 years ago when humans finally started working together in space, called an emergency session. Representatives from every nation crowded into the chamber in Geneva. Everyone was shouting. Ambassador Chen Wei stood at the podium waiting for silence. He was a thin man with gray hair and the patient eyes of someone who had spent 40 years in diplomacy. When the room finally quieted, he spoke softly. We need to verify this is genuine. We need to make contact. And we need to remain calm. Calm? The Russian representative slammed his hand on the desk. They want to enslave us! They want to negotiate, Chen replied. The transmission gave us 30 days. That means they're willing to talk. Or they're giving us time to panic, someone else muttered. Chen ignored that. I'm proposing we send a response. Open a channel. Find out what we're dealing with. At the North American Aerospace Defense Command, thousands of people stared at screens showing space. The telescopes had found them immediately. 47 massive ships sitting just past Neptune's orbit. Each one was the size of a small city. They hadn't been there yesterday. Dr. Marcus Webb stood in front of the largest display, his fingers dancing across a keyboard. He was a physicist who specialized in signal analysis, and right now he was the most important person in the room. The transmission came from all of them simultaneously, he said to the general standing beside him. Perfect synchronization. That level of coordination it's beyond anything we can do. Can we talk to them? We can try. I'm setting up a response beacon now. Marcus paused, his eyes narrowing at something on the screen. Sir, there's something else in the transmission. What do you mean? Hidden data. Encrypted but not very well, almost like they wanted us to find it. His fingers moved faster. Give me 10 minutes. Sarah reached the base in record time. The Defiant Echo sat in its hangar, a sleek black ship that looked like a knife made of shadows. It was humanity's first attempt at stealth technology in space, not invisible but hard to see. Hard to track, her crew was already assembling. Lieutenant Kim, her second in command. Engineer Patel, who could fix anything with spare parts and determination. Navigator Torres, who had memorized every rock in the solar system. Captain, Kim said, are we going up? Not yet, but be ready. I have a feeling we're going to need to see these visitors up close. In Geneva, Ambassador Chen was trying to broadcast a message. Every radio telescope on Earth pointed toward the alien fleet. The message was simple. We received your transmission. We wish to discuss terms. Please respond. Nothing happened. They sent it again and again. For 6 hours, Earth called out to the visitors. The aliens didn't answer. Meanwhile, Dr. Webb had cracked the encrypted data. What he found made him go pale. He called the general over immediately. "You need to see this." The hidden files contained images, thousands of them, planets burning, cities reduced to rubble, beings that looked nothing like humans or the Crythions, all wearing collars, all working in massive factories or mines. Each image had a caption. "The Vrelian resistance pacified after 3 years. The Tordash rebellion eliminated in 18 months. The Quillian negotiation failed. Species reduced to labor class. There were 847 species documented. All of them had refused the tribute demand. All of them had lost. It's a warning," Marcus said quietly. "They're showing us what happens if we say no." The general stared at the screen. "Send this to the council. Everyone needs to see it." That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She stood on the balcony of her apartment looking up at the stars. Neptune was too far to see with the naked eye, but she knew they were out there, waiting. Her phone buzzed. A message from Marcus Webb. They'd worked together before on the Defiant Echo's experimental drive system. The message was brief. "Found something strange. Not all species lost. One disappeared instead. Need to investigate." Before she could reply, another message came through. This one was official. "Orders from Earth Command. Prepare Defiant Echo for immediate reconnaissance mission. Target Neptune orbit. Observe alien fleet. Do not engage," Sarah smiled grimly. Finally, something she could do besides wait. The United Earth Council met again at midnight. The images of destroyed civilizations had spread across the entire planet. Now everyone knew what refusing meant. The chamber was no longer filled with shouting. Instead, there was silence. The heavy kind that comes before terrible decisions. "We need more information," Chen said. "We're sending a ship to observe them up close. Captain Okonkwo's Defiant Echo will launch at dawn." "And if they see her?" someone asked. "Then we'll find out if they're interested in talking or if they're just waiting for us to make the first mistake." As Sarah prepared her ship for launch, Marcus sent her everything he'd found. The warning images, the encrypted files, and one more thing. Coordinates for a planet called Vidian, a species that had paid tribute for 200 years, then simply vanished from Crythion records. "If we survive this," Marcus wrote, "we need to find out what happened to them. They might be the only ones who escaped." Sarah loaded the data into her ship's computer. 29 days remained until the deadline. 29 days to figure out how humanity could survive when 847 other species had failed. The Defiant Echo launched at sunrise. As it climbed into orbit and pointed toward the outer solar system, Sarah looked back at Earth, the blue marble spinning in the darkness. Home to 8 billion people who were all asking the same question. How do you fight something that has already won 847 times? She didn't have an answer yet, but she was going to find one. The Defiant Echo moved through space like a whisper. Sarah kept the engines at minimum power, using the cold darkness between planets as cover. It took 3 days to reach Neptune's orbit, 3 days of silence and growing tension. On Earth, those same 3 days were chaos. Half the world's population demanded the Council refuse the aliens. The other half begged for compliance. Protests filled every major city. Some people insisted on fighting. Others wanted to negotiate. A few built bunkers and waited for the end. Dr. Marcus Webb didn't have time for panic. He worked 18-hour days in his laboratory, pulling apart every piece of data from the alien transmission. The warning images haunted him. 847 species, 847 failures. But one anomaly kept pulling his attention. The Viridians. Their entry in the Crythion database was different. Every other species had a clear ending: conquered, pacified, eliminated. The Viridian entry just stopped. 200 years of tribute payments, detailed records of resources transferred, and then nothing. No conquest, no rebellion, just blank space where information should be. Marcus pulled up their last known coordinates. The Viridian home system was 42 light-years away. With conventional engines, humanity couldn't reach it in 1,000 years. But the Defiant Echo had something different, something experimental. He opened a secure channel to Sarah's ship. "Captain, I'm sending you new coordinates. After you finish observing the fleet, we need to talk about a side trip." Sarah's voice came back 10 minutes later, delayed by distance. "Doctor, we're barely holding together out here." "What kind of side trip?" the kind that might save humanity. On the Defiant Echoes bridge, Sarah reviewed the data Marcus had sent. The Vidian coordinates, the gap in their records, the implication that somehow, impossibly, they'd escaped the Crithion Dominion. "Lieutenant Kim," she said, "what's our quantum slip drive status?" Kim looked up from her console. "Still experimental, Captain. We've never used it for more than short jumps. 42 light years would be ambitious. Would it kill us? Probably not. Maybe 50-50 odds." Sarah smiled without humor. "Better odds than Earth has right now."
"Keep it ready."
First, we observe our visitors. The alien fleet came into view slowly. Even at a distance, they were magnificent and terrifying. Each ship was different, built with sweeping curves and angles that hurt to look at. They glowed with a soft blue light that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat, and they were just sitting there, waiting. "They're not preparing for battle," Torres observed from the navigation station. "No formation patterns, no weapons charging. They're just parked. Because they don't think they need to prepare," Sarah said quietly. "They've done this 847 times. Why would this time be different?" Patel, working at the engineering console, highlighted something on the display. "Captain, look at the center ship. It's 3 times larger than the others, and every other ship is oriented toward it." Sarah studied the massive vessel. It was beautiful in the way that sharks were beautiful, perfectly designed for its purpose. The command ship, the one giving orders to all the others. "That's my guess," Patel confirmed. Sarah recorded everything: ship positions, energy signatures, the way they maintained perfect spacing. After 6 hours of observation, she had enough data. She opened a channel back to Earth. "Command, this is Defiant Echo. The fleet is observing, not preparing. They're confident. I'm proceeding to secondary objective." She didn't mention what that objective was. If the transmission was intercepted, she didn't want the aliens knowing. Back on Earth, Ambassador Chen was making another attempt at contact. For 4 days, humanity had been trying to talk to the Crithion fleet. For 4 days, the aliens had responded with nothing but automated messages repeating the original demands. Then, on the 5th day, something changed. A new transmission came through. Not Lord Commander Zephix, a different Crithion with darker skin and 6 eyes instead of 4. "Humans, I am Recorder Vathix. Your attempts at communication have been noted. There are no negotiations. The terms are absolute. However, I will answer 3 questions to assist your compliance. Choose them carefully." Chen was in the Geneva chamber when the message arrived. He stood at the podium, mind racing. 3 questions. That was all humanity would get. He looked around the room at the other representatives. Everyone had questions they wanted to ask. Everyone had theories about what information would be most valuable. "We need to be strategic," Chen said. "These questions might be our only chance to understand what we're dealing with." General James Kutcher, the head of Earth's combined military forces, stood up. "Ask them if we can fight them. Ask them what happens if we refuse." "We already know what happens if we refuse," someone else said. "We've seen the images." "Then ask them how long we have to prepare. Ask them if there's any way out." Chen raised his hand for silence. After an hour of debate, they agreed on 3 questions. Chen recorded them and sent the transmission. First, what happens to the humans sent to your labor colonies? Second, have any species ever successfully negotiated different terms? Third, what is the penalty for non-compliance? The response came back 6 hours later. Recorder Vathix appeared on every screen again, his 6 eyes blinking in sequence. First, humans sent to labor colonies will work in resource extraction and manufacturing. They will be fed, housed, and medically maintained to ensure productive lifespans. Second, no. The terms are standardized across all annexed territories. Third, non-compliance results in forced compliance. Your military capacity will be eliminated. Your industrial centers will be occupied. Resistance is inefficient. The transmission ended, that's it. Someone shouted in the Geneva chamber. "That's all we get?" Chen sat down heavily. They'd learned almost nothing new. The Crithions weren't interested in dialogue. They were interested in efficiency. Meanwhile, Sarah had made a decision. She pointed the Defiant Echo toward the coordinates Marcus had sent. "Toward the Vidian system. Everyone strap in," she announced. "We're about to find out if the quantum slip drive actually works." The theory behind the drive was simple enough. Instead of moving through space, the ship would slip sideways through quantum foam, effectively teleporting to a different location. In practice, it was terrifying. Patel activated the drive. The universe twisted. Sarah felt like she was being pulled through a straw while simultaneously expanding to the size of a galaxy. Colors that didn't exist swirled around the ship. Time stopped making sense. For a moment that lasted both forever and no time at all. They weren't anywhere. Then reality snapped back. Stars reappeared. Solid, reliable physics resumed. Torres checked their position and whooped. We did it. We're in the Vidian system. 42 light years and 11 days. Sarah's hands were shaking, but she kept her voice steady. Scan for planets. Scan for life. Let's find out what happened here. The Vidian homeworld appeared on their screens within an hour. It was a beautiful planet, covered in purple vegetation and crystalline cities that reflected sunlight like prisms, and it was very much alive. I'm reading millions of life signs, Kim reported, stunned. Captain, there's a thriving civilization down there. They're not extinct. They're not conquered. They're just here. Sarah stared at the planet, a species that had paid tribute to the Crithion Dominion for 2 centuries and somehow escaped. She had to know how, open a channel, tell them we're from Earth and we desperately need their help. The response came quickly. A Vidian face appeared on the screen. They looked almost human, except for the crystalline growths that covered their shoulders and the fact that their eyes were completely silver. Humans, the Vidian said in perfect English. We've been wondering when you would arrive. We saw the Crithion fleet enter your system. We recognize the pattern. Come down. We have much to tell you. Sarah landed the Defiant Echo on a platform near one of the crystalline cities. The Vidians who met them were peaceful, curious, and sympathetic. A Vidian elder named Crystallix greeted them. You want to know how we escaped the Dominion? The answer is we didn't. We changed them instead. Over the next 6 hours, Crystallix explained. The Vidians had paid tribute for 200 years. They'd sent their resources, their technology, and yes, their people to work in Crithion colonies. But the Vidians had a weapon the Crithions never anticipated. Culture. Every Vidian sent to work in the labor colonies brought with them their art, their music, their philosophy, their stories. Vidian culture was beautiful, deep, and infectious. The Crithions who supervised the labor colonies started listening to Vidian songs, started reading Vidian literature, started questioning what their empire was for. Within a century, entire sectors of the Crithion Dominion were more interested in Vidian philosophy than conquest. The empire had faced something it couldn't fight, an idea that felt better than domination. Eventually, quietly, the Dominion stopped demanding tribute from the Vidians. Not because they were defeated, but because they were afraid. Afraid that more exposure to Vidian culture would continue corrupting their purpose. Sarah listened to all of this with growing despair. That took you 200 years. We have less than a month. Crystallix nodded sadly. We know. Our method won't work for you. Not in your time frame. They paused. But we can give you something else. Information. We know how the Crithion fleet operates. The Vidians, the United Earth Council chamber had never been so crowded. Every screen showed Sarah Okonkwo's face as she presented her findings from the Vidian system. Every representative leaned forward, desperate for hope. The Vidian solution won't work for us, Sarah said bluntly. They changed the Crithions through culture over 2 centuries. We have 16 days, but they gave us something better, a blueprint of the enemy's weakness. She pulled up a holographic display of the alien fleet. The massive sovereign vessel glowed at the center, lines connecting it to every other ship. The entire fleet operates on absolute hierarchy. Every ship takes orders from the sovereign. No independence. No initiative. If we remove the sovereign from the equation, 46 ships become paralyzed, waiting for orders from Crithion homeworlds that are months away. Ambassador Chen studied the display. You're proposing we capture it? Yes. General Kutcher stood up. Captain, with all respect, that's suicide. We can't fight them. Every simulation we've run shows our weapons are useless against their shields. One of their ships could destroy our entire orbital defense network. I'm not proposing we fight them, Sarah replied. I'm proposing we trick them. She changed the display, showing technical readouts Dr. Marcus Webb had been working on. Marcus has been analyzing their communication systems. The Sovereign maintains constant contact with every ship through a quantum-linked network. It's elegant, efficient, and completely dependent on the sovereign being able to transmit. Marcus appeared on another screen, connecting from his laboratory. His eyes were red from lack of sleep but bright with excitement. If we can sever that connection, even temporarily, the fleet loses cohesion. And I think I know how to do it. He pulled up equations that made most people in the chamber wince. The quantum slip drive we use to reach the Vidian system doesn't just move through space. It manipulates quantum fields. If we modify the drive to broadcast instead of transport, we could create a quantum disruption field. It wouldn't damage their ships, but it would cut off the Sovereign's command network. For how long? Chen asked. Maybe 10 minutes. Maybe an hour. It's experimental. The field might collapse immediately, or it might hold long enough for us to act. General Kutcher shook his head. That's not a plan. That's a prayer. Do you have a better one? Sarah challenged. Because I'm open to suggestions. The chamber fell silent. They'd spent 16 days looking for alternatives. 16 days of simulations, debates, and desperate searches for diplomatic solutions. Nothing had worked. The Crithions wouldn't negotiate. Earth couldn't win a conventional fight. Finally, Chen spoke. If we're going to do this, we need to make them come to us. Bring the Sovereign close enough to Earth that we can deploy the disruption field and capture it before they realize what's happening. And how do we make them come to us? Someone asked. They're perfectly happy sitting out by Neptune waiting for us to surrender. Sarah smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. We invite them. We tell them we're ready to pay tribute, and we want their sovereign to come witness the ceremony. We appeal to their ego. They won't fall for that, Kutcher said. They might, Marcus countered. Think about it from their perspective. They've done this 847 times. Every species either fights and loses quickly, or surrenders without resistance. No one has ever invited them closer. The psychological profile suggests they'd be curious. Chen nodded slowly. It's audacious, insane, but it might work. He looked around the chamber. We need a vote. If even one nation dissents, we can't maintain the deception. For 2 hours they debated. Some representatives argued for surrender. Others wanted to fight conventionally. A few suggested running, loading ships with humans, and fleeing into deep space. But in the end, they voted. 193 nations in favor. 0 opposed. Humanity would take the insane option, because it was the only option they had. The next morning, Ambassador Chen broadcast a message to the Crithion fleet. His hands trembled slightly, but his voice was steady. Lord Commander Zephix, the United Earth Council has reached a decision. We will comply with your demands. However, we request that you honor us with your presence. We wish to present our tribute formally, with appropriate ceremony as befits the beginning of our relationship with the Crithion Dominion. We invite your sovereign vessel to Earth orbit to witness our compliance. The transmission ended. Now they waited. On military bases around the world, preparations began. Not weapons. Weapons wouldn't work. Instead, they built transmitters, massive quantum field generators based on Marcus's designs. Every facility with a power source strong enough got one. Orbital stations, moon bases, the colonies on Mars. Sarah oversaw the installation of the largest transmitter on the Defiant Echo. If this worked, her ship would be at ground zero when they activated the field. If it didn't work, she'd probably be the first one vaporized. You don't have to do this, Kim said quietly, watching the installation. We could put someone else in command for this mission. No, Sarah replied. This was my idea. I'm seeing it through. 3 days passed with no response from the Crithions. People started to lose hope. Maybe the aliens weren't interested. Maybe they saw through the deception. Then on the 4th day, Lord Commander Zephix's face appeared on every screen again. Humans, your compliance is acknowledged. Your request is unusual. In 10,000 years, no species has invited the sovereign to witness tribute. This demonstrates either wisdom or foolishness. We shall determine which. The alien's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. I will arrive at your planet in 48 hours. Have your tribute prepared. Any sign of deception will result in immediate pacification. The transmission ended. Sarah let out a breath she'd been holding. He's coming. The crazy bastard is actually coming. Marcus was less relieved. Now we just have to capture the most powerful ship in their fleet using technology we invented last week and barely understand. One thing at a time, Marcus. The next 48 hours were chaos. Every nation on Earth moved resources to the collection points they'd set up. Real resources. If the Crytheon scanned the planet, they needed to see actual compliance. Minerals, technology, supplies, the appearance of surrender. Meanwhile, in orbit, Sarah positioned her ships. The Defiant Echo would lead. Behind it, 20 stealth vessels from various nations. Not to fight. They were carrying the EMP nets Marcus had designed, electromagnetic pulse generators wrapped in graphene mesh. If the disruption field worked, they'd deploy the nets around the sovereign vessel, disabling its primary systems before it could re-establish command. It was a ridiculous plan with 1,000 ways to fail. But it was humanity's plan, and they were committed. General Kutcher coordinated from Earth. He'd argued against this approach, but once the decision was made, he threw everything into making it work. Thousands of soldiers stood ready at the collection points, prepared to act as guards for the tribute shipments. On the surface, they looked like they were helping load cargo. In reality, they were ready to fight if this went wrong. Ambassador Chen prepared his speech. He would greet the sovereign, formally welcome them to Earth, and give the signal when everything was in position. 24 hours before arrival, Marcus ran final tests on the quantum disruption field. The simulations looked good. Probably. The truth was, they were guessing. This technology was so new that probably was the best they could offer. If this works, we've just invented a weapon that could change everything, Marcus said, staring at the data. If it doesn't, we've just invited our executioner to our front door. Sarah found him in the laboratory that evening. Having second thoughts. Fifth or sixth thoughts, actually. He rubbed his eyes. What if I miscalculated? What if the field damages their ship and they retaliate? What if it works and we still can't capture the Sovereign in time? Then we tried, Sarah said. We tried instead of just rolling over. That has to count for something. Does it count if we're dead? Especially then. She put a hand on his shoulder. Get some sleep, Marcus. Tomorrow we find out if humans are as clever as we think we are. The Sovereign vessel arrived exactly on schedule. It emerged from quantum slip travel in a flash of blue light, appearing in lunar orbit like a god descending from heaven. Up close, it was even more massive than the scans had suggested. Beautiful and terrible, covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly. Lord Commander Zephix broadcast to the planet. Humans, I am here. Begin tribute presentation. Ambassador Chen stood at the primary collection point in Geneva. Thousands of containers of resources arranged behind him. Lord Commander, we are honored by your presence. If you would move to these coordinates, we have prepared a formal ceremony. He transmitted coordinates that would put the Sovereign vessel between Earth and the Moon, surrounded by humanity's honor guard of stealth ships. There was a pause. Sarah held her breath. This was the moment. Would Zephix accept, or would he see through the trap? Very well, the alien finally said. Your attempt at formality is noted. We shall observe your ceremony. The Sovereign vessel moved into position, massive and proud, surrounded by the tiny human ships that see. The electromagnetic nets wrapped around the Sovereign vessel like chains around a giant. Blue lightning arced across the ship's hull as system after system began to fail. Inside, Lord Commander Zephix gripped his command throne, all four eyes blazing with fury and disbelief. Impossible, he hissed. Their technology cannot affect us. Our shields should. Another pulse hit. The throne's displays went dark. On the Defiant Echo, Sarah watched her screens with fierce concentration. Marcus, how long will the disruption field hold? Unknown. His voice crackled back from Earth. The field is stable now, but the Sovereign systems are trying to adapt. Could be minutes. Could be seconds. That's not helpful, Marcus. I'm a scientist, not a fortune teller. General Kutcher's voice cut in from Earth Command. All ships maintain net deployment. Do not let that vessel re-establish communications with its fleet. Throughout the solar system, the 46 other Crytheon ships hung motionless in space. Without orders from the Sovereign, their protocols required them to wait. They could see their commander's vessel under attack. They could detect the electromagnetic interference, but they couldn't act without direct commands, and those commands weren't coming. It was the Crytheon Dominion's greatest strength, turned into their critical weakness. Perfect obedience, absolute hierarchy, no initiative. Humanity had found the flaw and driven a knife into it. Boarding teams, move in, Sarah ordered. We need to secure that ship before they adapt. 6 assault shuttles launched from orbital stations, carrying soldiers in powered armor. They'd trained for this mission in 18-hour shifts, practicing boarding procedures on mock-ups. Now they had to do it for real, against an enemy that had conquered most of the galaxy. The lead shuttle was piloted by Commander Rodriguez, a veteran of the Mars Colony Defense Force. She guided her craft toward one of the Sovereign's airlocks, hands steady despite the fact that she was attacking a ship the size of a city. "Remember," she told her team, "we're not here to kill anyone. We're here to secure the bridge and hold the commander until the Council can negotiate. Non-lethal force only unless absolutely necessary." Her second-in-command, Sergeant Okafor, checked his weapon. "Ma'am, what if they don't surrender? Then we find out how tough these aliens really are." The shuttle docked with a magnetic clamp. Rodriguez activated the cutting laser, burning through the airlock. Atmosphere hissed out in a cloud of frozen vapor. Then they were through. The interior of the Sovereign vessel was like nothing any human had seen. Walls that seemed to shift colors. Gravity that felt slightly wrong, pulling in directions it shouldn't. Lights that made your eyes water if you looked at them directly. And Crythions, dozens of them, crew members rushing through corridors in confusion. When they saw the humans, they stopped, staring. Some reached for weapons. Others simply stood frozen. "Do not resist," Rodriguez shouted, her translator broadcasting the words in Crythion language. "Your ship is disabled. Surrender and no one will be harmed." A Crythion officer, smaller than Zephix but with the same shimmering skin, stepped forward. You attacked us. You cannot attack us. We are the Dominion. You are primitives." "We're primitives who just captured your flagship," Okafor replied. "Now are you going to cooperate or not?" The officer looked around at his crew, then at the humans in their armor, then at the sparking systems all around them. Slowly he raised his hands in what humans hoped was a gesture of surrender. "Take us to your bridge," Rodriguez commanded. On Earth, Ambassador Chen watched the operation unfold on multiple screens. Every news network on the planet was broadcasting. 8 billion people held their breath. "This is insane," someone whispered beside Chen. "We're actually doing this. We're capturing an alien warship." "We haven't captured it yet," Chen replied. "Don't celebrate until Zephix is in custody." Deep in the Sovereign vessel, Rodriguez and her team reached the bridge. The doors were massive, covered in symbols that glowed with inner light. They were also locked. "Sergeant, breach it." Okafor placed charges around the door frame. "Fire in the hole!" The explosion was smaller than Rodriguez expected, but effective. The doors buckled inward. Her team rushed through, weapons ready. The bridge was enormous. The walls were covered in displays showing star systems, resource calculations, and data from 1,000 conquered worlds. And in the center, on a throne that looked like it was grown rather than built, sat Lord Commander Zephix. He hadn't moved during the attack, hadn't tried to flee. He sat perfectly still, all 4 eyes fixed on the humans who'd invaded his ship. "You are making," he said slowly, "a mistake of cosmic proportions." Rodriguez kept her weapon trained on him. "Lord Commander Zephix, by authority of the United Earth Council, you are detained. Your vessel is under our control. Order your crew to stand down." Zephix's mouth did something that might have been a smile. "Or what, you will kill me? Then my fleet will avenge me. You will destroy this ship. Then every Crythion world will know of your treachery. There are 1,000 ways this ends, human. All of them result in your species being erased." "Maybe," Rodriguez admitted. "But right now you're in our custody, and I've got orders to bring you to Earth. So you can walk or we can drag you. Your choice." For a long moment, Zephix didn't move. Then he stood slowly, his 4 eyes never leaving Rodriguez's face. He was tall, nearly 7 feet, and when he moved it was with fluid grace. "You do not understand what you have done," he said quietly, "but you will learn." They escorted him off his bridge through corridors filled with his shocked crew, onto a human shuttle. The whole time Zephix remained calm. Too calm. It made Rodriguez nervous. Back on the Defiant Echo, Sarah received confirmation. "The Sovereign is secure. Repeat, the Sovereign is secure. Lord Commander Zephix is in custody." She wanted to cheer. She wanted to scream in triumph. Instead, she just nodded and opened a channel to Earth. "Command, mission successful. Bringing the package home." General Kutcher's response was immediate. "Copy that, Defiant Echo and Captain. That was the bravest thing I've ever seen. Drinks are on me when you land." I'll hold you to that, sir. They transported Zephyx to the Geneva Council chamber. News helicopters circled overhead. Security was everywhere. The most important prisoner in human history was about to enter the most important building on Earth. Ambassador Chen waited at the entrance. When Zephyx was escorted in, wearing magnetic restraints that the military promised would hold him, Chen bowed slightly. Lord Commander, welcome to Earth. Not quite the ceremony we'd planned, but circumstances changed. Zephyx looked around the chamber, studying the humans who stared back at him. You are proud of this ambush. We're relieved, Chen corrected. There's a difference. We didn't want to fight you, we wanted to survive. And you believed capturing me would achieve survival? Zephyx's laugh was like glass breaking. Foolish. My fleet may be paralyzed now, but reinforcements will come. When the Dominion learns what happened here, your son will be snuffed out. Chen gestured to a seat, specially built for Crithion physiology in the hopes they'd one day negotiate peacefully. Perhaps, but that will take months, which gives us months to talk. So let's talk, Lord Commander. Let's discuss why you're really here. You know why? You received our demands. We received your script, Chen said. The same demands you've given 847 other species. But I don't think you understand humans very well. We've been studying your empire since you arrived, reading every piece of data we could extract from your transmissions, and we found something interesting. He nodded to Dr. Marcus Webb, who stepped forward with a datapad. Your empire is dying, isn't it? Not from war, from stagnation. You've conquered so completely that innovation has ceased. You extract tribute to maintain your infrastructure, but that infrastructure is slowly crumbling. The Dominion is collapsing under its own success. Zephyx's eyes narrowed. You understand nothing. We understand enough, Marcus continued. You need resources, yes. But more than that, you need new ideas, new technology, new ways of thinking. That's why you catalog species so carefully. You're not just taxing them. You're trying to absorb anything useful before their cultures are destroyed. For the first time, Zephyx looked uncertain. How did you— Your own databases, Chen interrupted gently. You include so much information in your warnings. Too much information. We studied the patterns. The species you conquered weren't just enslaved. They were studied, cataloged, and when you'd extracted everything useful, they were left to stagnate just like you. He leaned forward. But it doesn't have to be that way. Lord Commander, what if instead of taking tribute you had partners, species that chose to work with you because it benefited them? The Dominion does not have partners, Zephyx said coldly. We have subjects. And how's that working out for you? Sarah asked, entering the chamber. She'd just landed and came straight here, still wearing her flight suit. You're flying through space, conquering planets, and slowly rotting from the inside. We've got problems, sure, but at least we're still evolving, still creating, still trying new things. She pulled up holographic displays showing human history. Wars, art, science, failure, and triumph. You want to know what makes humans dangerous? We're problem solvers. You give us an impossible situation, and we find a way through. You demanded tribute. We captured your flagship instead. Not because we're stronger. Because we think the negotiations took 17 days. 17 days where the world held its breath, where the Crithion fleet remained frozen in space, and where humanity learned more about galactic politics than they'd ever wanted to know. Lord Commander Zephyx was a difficult negotiator. He'd spent 3 centuries enforcing the Dominion's will across dozens of star systems. Compromise was a foreign concept, but he was also intelligent enough to recognize when circumstances had changed. Ambassador Chen led the human delegation. Every morning he sat across from Zephyx in the Geneva chamber, working through details. Resource sharing, technology exchange, cultural cooperation. Each point was debated, refined, and slowly, painfully, agreed upon. You understand, Zephyx said during one session, that even if I present this to the Dominion Council, they may reject it. I am powerful, but I am not the Dominion itself. We understand, Chen replied, but you're our best chance. If you return and tell them this was a victory, that you transformed a potential military disaster into a diplomatic breakthrough, they might listen. Zephyx made a sound that might have been laughter. A victory. You captured me, disabled my flagship, and paralyzed my fleet. And I am to call this a victory? You're alive, Sarah pointed out from her seat along the wall. Your ship is undamaged. Your crew is safe. And instead of returning with tribute, you're returning with something the Dominion hasn't had in centuries. Genuine allies who want to work with you. Want to? Zefix's eyes focused on her. You want nothing to do with us. You are terrified and trying to survive. True, Sarah admitted, but terror fades. Survival instinct doesn't. If working with you means humanity gets to keep existing, we'll work with you. And maybe over time it becomes something more than just survival. Dr. Marcus Webb had been quiet during most of the negotiations, but now he spoke up. Lord Commander, I've been studying your technology. It's impressive. Centuries ahead of ours in some ways, but it's also stagnant. The quantum slip drive we used came from human innovation in just the last decade. We're younger, yes, but we're still creating, still discovering. That has value. Zefix considered this. The Dominion prizes efficiency. Innovation is the chaotic. Innovation is life, Marcus countered. Without it, you're just maintaining what exists. Eventually entropy wins. You need new ideas to survive, just like any other civilization. These philosophical debates happened daily. Sometimes they made progress. Sometimes they argued in circles for hours. But slowly a framework emerged. Humanity would share technology freely, particularly innovations in quantum mechanics and artificial intelligence. The Crithions would provide protection from other hostile species and access to galactic trade networks. Cultural exchange programs would be established, with humans and Crithions learning from each other voluntarily, not through forced labor. No tribute. No slavery. Partnership. Partnership. Zefix repeated the word like he was tasting something strange. In 10,000 years, the Dominion has never had partners, only subjects. Maybe that's why you're dying, Chen said gently. Maybe partnership is what you've been missing. On the 18th day, Zefix made his decision. I will present this agreement to the Dominion Council. I will frame it as you suggest, a strategic victory, a new approach to expansion. Whether they accept it, he paused. I cannot guarantee success, we know, Chen said. But it's more than we had before you arrived. Indeed. Zefix stood, his restraints having been removed days ago. Before I depart, I must ask, why did you not simply destroy my ship when you had the chance? You could have killed me and scattered my fleet. Instead, you captured me alive and offered negotiation. Why? Sarah answered. Because killing you doesn't solve the problem. Your empire is bigger than one ship, one commander. If we destroyed you, they'd send more. Stronger fleets, and eventually we'd lose. But if we could change your mind, change your approach, maybe we could change the Empire's approach. Ambitious, Zefix said. Desperate, Sarah corrected. But hopefully both. The Lord Commander was escorted back to his flagship. Engineers had spent the past weeks repairing the damage from the EMP nets and studying the systems. Now they reactivated everything under careful supervision. As Zefix boarded his ship, he turned back to the human delegation. When we meet again, it will be under different circumstances. I hope for your sake that they are favorable circumstances. So do we, Chen replied. The sovereign vessel's systems came online. Lights flickered, then stabilized. The quantum link network re-established. And throughout the solar system, 46 Crithion ships suddenly received new orders. The fleet departed within an hour, vanishing into quantum slip travel in flashes of blue light. One moment they were there. The next, Earth's solar system was empty of alien vessels. General Kutcher stood next to Chen, watching the last ship disappear on the tracking screens. Did we just make the biggest mistake in human history, or did we just save ourselves? Ask me in a few months, Chen replied. Those months were agonizing. Earth couldn't just wait and hope. They prepared. The quantum disruption field technology was refined and installed on every major defensive platform. The stealth fleet was expanded. Colony ships were built in secret, ready to flee into deep space if the worst happened. But they also hoped. Schools started offering courses in Crithion language and culture. Scientists published papers on how to integrate alien and human technology. Artists created works imagining a future where species cooperated instead of conquered. Dr. Marcus Webb worked 20-hour days in his laboratory, pushing quantum physics forward. If the Crithions come back hostile, we need to be ready with more than one trick, he told Sarah. But if they come back as allies, we need to be ready with innovations worth sharing. Sarah, promoted to admiral after the successful capture of Zephyx, oversaw the military preparations, but she also spent time with the diplomatic corps, helping them understand Crithion military psychology. They respect strength, she explained. Not just physical strength, strategic strength. We showed them we could think our way out of an impossible situation. That bought us respect. We need to keep earning it. 83 days after the Crithion fleet departed, Earth's deep space sensors detected something, a quantum slip signature approaching the solar system. Alarms went off. Defense platforms activated. The entire planet went on high alert. Then the message came through. Lord Commander Zephix's face appeared on every screen, just like that first day months ago, but this time he was smiling. Or at least doing something with his mouth that seemed friendly. Humans of Earth, I have returned, and I bring news. Chen, Sarah, Marcus, and General Kutcher gathered in the command center, hearts pounding. Zephix continued. The Dominion Council reviewed our agreement. There was significant debate. Many counselors argued for traditional pacification, but I presented your capture of my flagship not as a defeat, but as a demonstration of strategic value. I told them you possessed innovation and creativity that the Dominion lacks. He paused. Sarah gripped the edge of her chair. The council voted to accept the partnership with conditions. You will be placed under Dominion protection. You will share technology as agreed. In exchange, you will have access to galactic trade and scientific knowledge. You will not pay tribute. You will not send laborers. You will be, for the first time in Dominion history, partners rather than subjects. The command center erupted in cheers. People hugged, cried, shouted in relief and triumph. 83 days of tension released in a single moment, but Zephix wasn't finished. However, you should know your actions have created ripples. Word of the partnership spread throughout the conquered territories. 17 subjugated species have now demanded the same terms. The Dominion faces pressure to reform or face widespread rebellion. Is that bad? Chen asked, his voice shaking slightly. For the old Dominion, yes. It is catastrophic. 10,000 years of structure collapsing because one species refused to follow the script. Zephix's 4 eyes gleamed. But I find myself excited. Change is terrifying, but perhaps necessary. Perhaps humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy will not be technology or resources, but the idea that there are alternatives to conquest. The partnership was formalized a week later. The first joint human Crithion research station was established on Titan, Saturn's largest moon. Scientists from both species worked side by side, sharing knowledge, debating theories, and occasionally arguing about who made better coffee. Ambassador Chen and Lord Commander Zephix stood at the station's observation window, watching Saturn's rings shimmer in the distance. You know, Zephix said, when I arrived at your planet, I expected a simple extraction. Submit or be pacified. I never imagined this. We're full of surprises, Chen replied with a smile. Indeed. My people are calling this the human disruption. Some mean it as an insult. Others as a compliment. I suspect history will decide which is correct. Ships from other species began arriving within months, species that had paid tribute for centuries. Now hearing that the Dom,